started as a joke. A silly late-night dare fueled by caffeine, boredom, and the soft glow of our dorm's fairy lights. I never thought one stupid message would spiral into this. My roommate, Olivia, falling in love with a version of me that didn't exist. We'd been roommates for 2 years at UCLA, 2 years of her meticulous organization, my chaotic habits, her playlists of indie love songs, my obsession with late-night ramen. We were opposites that somehow fit. She folded her jeans with military precision. I tossed mine onto a chair and called it art. But lately things between us had shifted. Olivia had been distant, eyes always glued to her phone, smiling at messages I didn't send. And that's when the idea came, cruel, hilarious, and a little intoxicating. I created a fake Instagram account. Just a name, Eleanor Gray. It sounded poetic enough to be believable. I sent her a DM. You don't know me, but I've seen you around campus. You have the kind of smile that ruins people in the best way. She replied 5 minutes later. Who is this? That should have been the end of it. But I typed back. Just someone who notices what others overlook. And somehow, in that one exchange, I crossed a line I didn't even know existed. Olivia wasn't the type to fall easily. She was grounded, logical, the kind of girl who thought love should be built, not stumbled into. But Eleanor, the me that wasn't me, said all the things I'd been too scared to say aloud. I told her she was radiant even when she was tired. That her laugh could make a Tuesday feel like summer. That maybe, just maybe, someone could love her not despite her walls but because of them. And she believed it. Every night, she texted Eleanor until her phone dimmed against her chest. I'd lie there 2 feet away, pretending to sleep while my heart burned with guilt and something that felt disturbingly like love. Because the truth was, I wasn't pretending anymore. One night she asked me, "Do you believe people can fall in love without meeting?" I laughed, trying to sound casual. You mean like those online couples who send each other playlists and cat memes? She smiled, that slow, shy curve that always wrecked me. Yeah, like that. Her voice was softer, hopeful. There's this girl. I don't even know her name. But she makes me feel seen. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. I wanted to tell her. I wanted to scream that it was me, that I saw her long before I ever hid behind a screen. But the fear of losing her was louder. So I stayed silent. Weeks passed. Eleanor became her secret. Our secret. She'd tell me about the messages, her fingers brushing the edge of her phone, cheeks pink with warmth. She's different, you know? Like she actually understands me. I smiled, hiding behind my laptop, typing another message seconds later under Eleanor Gray. You deserve someone who listens to the quiet parts of you. But then she said something that made my hands freeze. I want to meet her. The problem with pretending to be someone else is that eventually they'll want to see your face. And I couldn't give her mine. So I dodged. Made excuses. Eleanor said she was shy, busy, traveling, anything to delay the inevitable. Until one afternoon, Olivia stormed into the room, eyes wild. She goes to UCLA, she said, pacing. She mentioned the coffee shop near campus, the one with the ugly green chairs. And she knows my class schedule. You don't think that's weird? I forced a laugh. Maybe she's a stalker? But Olivia wasn't laughing. She's someone I know. I can feel it. I'm going to find her. That night, guilt gnawed at me like a hungry animal. I stared at my laptop screen, at the open DM box, and typed the words I should have written long ago. I can't do this anymore. She replied instantly. Did I do something wrong? No. You deserve someone who's not hiding. A pause. Then, you make it sound like you're ashamed. Maybe I am. I hit send and closed my laptop before I could change my mind. Across the room, Olivia stared at her phone. I saw her lip tremble just slightly before she turned away. I'd broken her heart with my own hands. The next week was hell. Olivia barely spoke to me. The dorm felt colder, emptier. Every song she played felt like a goodbye. I thought maybe time would make it better. That she'd move on, forget. But one evening I came back from class to find her sitting at her desk, eyes red, typing furiously. What are you doing? I asked. She looked up, startled, then closed her laptop. Nothing. But later, when she went to shower, I saw her search history left open. Who is Eleanor Gray, UCLA? My heart dropped. She wasn't giving up. She was really going to find me. The worst part? A tiny selfish part of me wanted her to, because if she found out, if she pieced it together, then maybe I wouldn't have to keep lying. Maybe she'd see the truth in my eyes and know that every word Eleanor ever wrote was real, that I loved her. Not from behind a screen. Not as a game. But as the girl who watched her fall asleep to the sound of rain and thought, God, how can one person make the world so beautiful? The following days felt like a ticking bomb. Olivia wasn't herself anymore, or maybe she was, just stripped of every calm layer she used to wear like armor. She barely slept, barely ate, always with her phone in hand, scrolling, reading, rereading old messages. I watched from the corner of our shared dorm room, pretending to do homework while every muscle in my body screamed with guilt. Sometimes I'd catch her looking at me, eyes narrowed, thoughtful, like she was seeing me differently or maybe seeing through me. And that terrified me more than anything. Do you ever think people lie to protect others? She asked one morning, voice quiet but steady. I froze halfway through pouring cereal. Sure. Happens all the time. She looked up, meeting my eyes. Do you think that's noble or cowardly? My heart thudded painfully. Depends on the lie. She held my gaze for a second longer, too long, then looked away, sighing. Yeah, I guess it does. It was in that moment I realized she wasn't just guessing anymore. She knew, or at least she was getting close. Later that night, while she was out studying, I sat on my bed and scrolled through Eleanor's account. There were over 100 messages. Little confessions, compliments, photos of the sunset with captions like, "This reminded me of you." All of them mine. All of them hers. It didn't feel like a prank anymore. It felt like a diary, a love story written in stolen moments and lies. I hovered over the delete account button for a long time. But my fingers wouldn't move. Deleting it meant erasing her. The version of me that could say the words I never dared speak aloud. The first rail crack happened on a rainy Wednesday. We were both in the room, the air heavy with tension and the smell of wet pavement drifting through the open window. Olivia sat cross-legged on her bed, scrolling, muttering to herself. Every time I think I'm getting close, something doesn't fit, she said, frustration lacing her tone. It's like she's both here and not here. Like she's in my life but hiding in plain sight. I swallowed hard. Maybe that's her thing. Some people like being mysterious. She looked up sharply. You sound like you know her. My heart nearly stopped. What? No. I just mean you've been talking about her nonstop. I'm starting to think like you. She laughed dryly. You think I'm obsessed? I didn't answer. Because she was. And the cruelest part was that she didn't even know she was obsessed with me. That night I couldn't sleep. Rain tapped gently against the window, and Olivia's breathing was steady across the room. I stared at the ceiling, my chest tight with everything unsaid. In the dim glow of my phone, I opened Eleanor's messages one last time. My fingers trembled as I typed. I wish I could tell you who I am. You probably hate me. But I need you to know that every word I said was real. Then impulsively I added, you already know me. You just don't realize it yet. I hit send before my brain could stop me. The next morning, Olivia's side of the room was empty. Her bed neatly made, her laptop gone. There was only a single note on her desk. Don't wait up. I think I know who she is. My stomach dropped. She was going to find Eleanor. And that meant she was going to find me. It rained all afternoon. The sky was a smear of gray, and campus felt like a movie in slow motion. I skipped my classes, pacing the dorm room, checking my phone every 2 minutes. At 5:42 p.m. my phone buzzed. Olivia. Meet me at the cafe near the library. Now. No emoji. No explanation. Just that. I didn't even grab an umbrella. The cafe was nearly empty when I arrived, the air thick with the scent of espresso and damp clothes. Olivia sat by the window, staring out at the rain, a half-finished latte in front of her. She didn't look up when I walked in. I hesitated, then slid into the seat across from her. She turned slowly, eyes sharp, studying me. You know what's funny? She began softly. You told me once that lies can be noble. I've been thinking about that. I forced a weak smile. You've been thinking too much lately. Her hand slid across the table, her phone face up. A message glowed on the screen. My message. You already know me. You just don't realize it yet. My mouth went dry. How did you? I'm not stupid, Harper. Her voice was steady, but her eyes. They were trembling. You used phrases only you say. The way you typed, the way you joked. Even the timing of your messages matched when you were in the room. She leaned forward, eyes searching mine. It's you, isn't it? The cafe noise seemed to vanish. All I could hear was my heartbeat. Yes. My voice cracked. It's me. Olivia sat back, arms crossed, expression unreadable. So this was a game? You thought it'd be funny to catfish your roommate. No. It started as a joke, but then what? You fell for me? She snapped, voice breaking on the last word. Because that's not how this works, Harper. You don't get to play pretend and then decide it's love. I know, I said, too loud, heads turning from nearby tables. I lowered my voice, pleading. I didn't mean to hurt you. But everything I said, every message, it was real. She shook her head, biting her lip hard enough to turn it white. You lied to me. I told you the truth, just not the way I should have. She stood up. That's not the same thing. And then she walked out into the rain. I didn't chase her. Because what could I possibly say that wouldn't sound like another lie? The days that followed were agony. We still shared a room, but it felt like a prison cell. She barely spoke to me. When she did, her words were clipped, polite, mechanical, like she'd programmed herself not to feel. Every night, I'd hear her typing on her laptop. Not messages anymore, but her journal. She'd always been the kind of girl who processed pain by writing it out. Sometimes, when she thought I was asleep, she'd whisper softly into the dark little fragments of sentences that felt like daggers. She made me believe. I thought she saw me. Why does it still hurt? Each word carved into me deeper than the last. One afternoon, I came back from class to find her sitting on the floor, surrounded by half-packed boxes. What are you doing? I asked. Moving out, she said flatly. They had an opening in another dorm. I took it. My chest tightened. Olivia, please. Don't, she said, standing. Don't try to fix this. You already broke it. Her voice cracked just once, and that single tremor undid me. I stepped forward, desperate. I know what I did was wrong. But I didn't do it to mess with you. I did it because what? She demanded, tears gathering in her eyes. Because you couldn't just tell me how you felt like a normal person? Yes, I shouted. Because I was scared. Because every time you smiled at me, I felt something I didn't understand, and I didn't know if you could ever feel it back. Silence. Olivia stared at me, breathing unevenly. So you lied instead. My throat burned. I thought if you fell for her, maybe you'd see that you could love me. She closed her eyes. You're so stupid. I know. When she opened them again, tears had spilled down her cheeks. You could have just told me, Harper. You didn't have to break me to prove I could be loved. And then she was gone. Boxes in hand. Door closing softly behind her. I didn't see her for 3 weeks. Campus felt emptier without her. Every hallway, every cafe, every patch of sunlight reminded me of her laugh. I tried focusing on classes, on anything else. But every time my phone buzzed, my heart jumped, hoping it was her. It never was. Until one evening a message appeared. From Olivia. Can we talk? We met at the pier just before sunset. The air was sharp with salt and sea spray, the waves glowing orange under the fading light. She was standing by the railing, hair whipping in the wind, wearing my old hoodie, the one she'd stolen months ago and pretended she didn't like. When she turned, her smile was small but real. Hey, she said softly. Hey. For a while, neither of us spoke. Just the sound of waves crashing below. Finally, she broke the silence. I kept reading those messages, she said. Over and over. Trying to hate them. But I couldn't. My chest tightened. Why? Because they made me feel something I hadn't felt in a long time, she said, eyes glistening. Safe. Seen. Loved. Even if it was a lie. It wasn't, I whispered. It was just misdelivered. She huffed a small laugh, shaking her head. You're impossible. I'm sorry. I know. She sighed. And I believe you. We stood there for a moment, two girls who had broken something fragile, and were scared to touch it again. Then she said, I'm not saying I forgive you. Not yet. But maybe I want to understand you. I smiled faintly. That's more than I deserve. Probably. She smiled back. But maybe it's what we deserve. As the sun sank into the horizon, she reached out, hesitated, then brushed her fingers against mine. It wasn't a kiss. It wasn't even a promise. It was a beginning. And for now that was enough. 2 weeks after the pier, everything felt like a slow thaw. Olivia and I weren't us again, not yet. But the silence between us had changed. It wasn't sharp anymore, not cold or punishing. It was soft, cautious. Like we were both afraid to speak too loud and break whatever fragile peace had begun to grow back. We'd started talking again. Small things at first, classes, coffee orders, the weather. Nothing deep. Nothing dangerous. But sometimes when she laughed it was almost the same. Almost. One morning I found her sitting on the dorm's front steps. A book in her lap, sunlight spilling over her shoulders. Her hair glowed like something unreal. Without thinking I sat beside her. She didn't look up right away, just kept reading. Then she said quietly, "You used to describe light like this. In your messages." I froze. She glanced at me, a small, knowing smile tugging her lips. "You always said the sun looked better when it touched me." I swallowed hard. "It still does." The words slipped out before I could stop them. And this time I didn't try to take them back. She looked at me for a long time, too long, and then turned back to her book. But the smile stayed. It was the smallest sign, but to me it was everything. A few nights later she texted me, "Movie night? My choice this time." I said yes before the message even finished loading. We ended up watching Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, one of her favorites. I'd never seen her watch it without crying. This time was no different. About halfway through she whispered, "It's weird, isn't it? The way love and pain always find each other." I glanced at her, the glow of the TV dancing on her face. "Yeah, but maybe that's what makes it real." She didn't answer. But she didn't move away when my hand brushed hers on the couch. Her pinky hooked mine, barely there but deliberate. It was enough to make my chest ache. The weeks turned into months. Spring came to campus slow and golden, filling every tree with life again. We started walking together after class, grabbing coffee, sharing playlists. We never said what we were doing. We didn't need to. Sometimes when she laughed too hard I'd think maybe she's forgiven me. Other times I'd catch her staring eyes full of something unreadable and I'd know she was still healing. But she was trying. And so was I. One afternoon we were lying on the grass behind Royce Hall, watching clouds drift over the pale blue sky. She turned to me suddenly, her voice quiet. "Do you still have the messages?" I nodded. "Yeah. I never deleted them." "Can I see?" I hesitated, then handed her my phone. She scrolled for a long time, eyes scanning the words like old memories she wasn't sure she wanted to revisit. Then she stopped, fingers pausing on one message. "You deserve someone who listens to the quiet parts of you." She looked up. "Did you mean that?" "Yes," I said without hesitation. "Every word." She stared at me, really looked at me for what felt like forever. Then she whispered, "Then maybe you should start listening too." Her hand reached for mine, firm this time. No hesitation. No hiding. Just us. That night, for the first time since everything fell apart, we stayed up talking until morning. We didn't talk about the lie or the pain or even Eleanor. We talked about everything else, our childhoods, our dreams, our fears. The things that made us who we were before the mess. At one point she asked softly, "When did you know that I liked you?" She nodded. "The first night you fell asleep on my shoulder," I said. "You were snoring, by the way." She laughed, a soft, sleepy sound that filled the room like sunlight. "You could have just told me," she said again, not accusingly this time but almost fondly. "I know," I murmured. "But if I had, would you have believed me?" She smiled faintly. "Maybe not." And then after a long pause she added, "But I do now." When she kissed me it wasn't fireworks or movie magic. It was slow trembling, full of everything we'd been too scared to say. Tasted like salt and forgiveness, like rain and second chances. When we pulled apart she whispered, "No more hiding." "Promise," I breathed. And I meant it. Summer arrived and everything felt lighter. We found a small apartment off campus, a place that smelled faintly of lavender and old paint. It wasn't perfect. The ceiling creaked, the pipes hissed, and the walls were too thin. But it was ours. Sometimes we'd cook together badly. Burnt pasta, oversalted soup, laughter echoing off the tiles. Other nights we'd just sit on the balcony, feet tangled, watching the city hum beneath us. She'd rest her head on my shoulder, and I'd think this is what peace feels like. One evening I came home to find her typing on her laptop, brow furrowed. "What are you working on?" I asked. She smiled. "An essay for my creative writing class." The prompt was truth and consequence. I grinned. "Sounds familiar." She looked at me for a moment then said, "I wrote about us." I froze. "You what?" "It's okay," she said, smiling softly. "I didn't use our names. Just what it felt like. The hurt, the confusion, the love." She paused, closing the laptop gently. I wanted to remember that sometimes, the wrong way can still lead to the right person. My throat tightened. "You're amazing, you know that?" She shrugged, teasing. "Took you long enough to notice." That night, as she drifted to sleep beside me, I whispered, "Thank you." "For what?" she mumbled sleepily. "For finding me, even when I didn't deserve it." She smiled against my shoulder. "You weren't hard to find. You were always right here." Months passed. Seasons changed again. One evening as the city lights flickered outside our window, she asked, "Do you ever miss her, Eleanor?" I thought for a moment, then shook my head. "No, because she was just me trying to be brave." Olivia smiled softly. "Then keep her. Just be her out loud this time." And I did. From then on I said what I felt. I told her she was beautiful in the mornings, messy hair and all. I told her she made me better. I told her I loved her often and without fear. Because she taught me that love isn't about perfection or pretense. It's about truth, even the messy, terrifying kind. One afternoon, nearly a year later, we returned to that same cafe near the library, the place where she'd confronted me, heartbroken and furious. Now she was sitting across from me, her hand resting in mine, eyes full of warmth. She laughed suddenly. "You realize this is where I almost murdered you, right?" I grinned. "Oh, I remember. I was ready to go out dramatically." She rolled her eyes. "You're impossible. But you love me anyway." She leaned across the table, pressing a kiss to my lips. "God help me, I do." Outside, the rain began to fall, soft, steady, like the world was exhaling. I looked at her, really looked at her, the girl who once was my roommate, my victim, my muse, and now somehow my home. "Hey," I said quietly. "Do you ever think about how it started? One stupid message." She smiled. "Yeah. But sometimes the wrong message finds the right heart." Later, as we walked back through the rain, hand in hand, she whispered something that made my chest ache all over again. "You know," she said, "I think I fell for both of you. The one behind the screen and the one brave enough to step out from behind it." I squeezed her hand. "Then I guess you get both." She laughed. "Lucky me." And in that moment, rain dripping from her hair, her laughter echoing down the quiet street, I realized something. This wasn't just forgiveness. It was love rewritten. Honest. Imperfect. Real. The kind that doesn't need hiding or pretending. The kind that starts with a lie and ends with a truth too beautiful to regret. A year later, she published that essay in a small literary magazine. It was called The Girl Behind the Screen. I remember holding the printed copy, reading her closing line over and over again. Love isn't always honest at first. Sometimes it begins with fear and ends when we find the courage to be seen. When I looked up, she was smiling at me across the kitchen table, coffee mug in hand, eyes full of everything I never thought I deserved. And I smiled back, whispering, "Hi, Olivia." She grinned. "Hi, Harper." And just like that, no secrets, no masks, no screens, our story began again. Thank you for listening. Like and subscribe to get notifications about next videos.